This GeekWire podcast is brought to you by BECU. Stay tuned to the break as Brian Westbrook interviews BECU's Stacy Black for today's Money Hack about the benefits of micro savings as part of a larger savings strategy. For more money hacks, check out geekwire.com/BECU.
You know, we'll look back in a couple of years and we'll see that like probably something on the order of like 90% of the work that AI is doing in a couple of years from now is work that humans never did before AI. It's just all net new work that we just never were executing on.
This is why you're still struggling to reach work-life balance.
Exactly, 100%. I'm finding just more to have the AI do, and then I end up doing more work as a result of that.
That is Aaron Levie, the CEO and co-founder of Box. Founded in 2005 by Levie and his friend and fellow Mercer Island High School alum, Dylan Smith, Box began as a simple file sharing service. It has since evolved into a platform for what the company calls intelligent content management. Now it's betting that AI can help customers get more value out of all that content. Box went public in 2015. It has about 2,800 employees, and it reported more than $1 billion in revenue last year, with nearly $245 million in profits. I'm Todd Bishop, and this week on the GeekWire podcast, we get into what's real and what's not when it comes to AI agents, how AI is changing Levie's own work habits, and why he says Box feels more like a startup today than it has in many years. Hey, Aaron, thanks very much for talking with me.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I was looking back at the GeekWire archives, and of course, you grew up in Mercer Island, so we've always kind of considered you one of our own up in the Seattle region. And you actually spoke, and I think it was the last time that we had a really in-depth conversation at GeekWire Startup Day back in 2012.
My God.
If you could go back to the Aaron from 2012 and have like a Marty McFly moment and say to yourself back then, like, you're not going to believe what we're going to be doing in 2025. What would you tell yourself back then?
I think I would probably say you're not going to believe that you're going to still be working so hard. Like it would probably be something like it doesn't get any easier, even though, you know, the theory is that the startup days are something that you mature beyond. I remember having this feeling like a couple years into the company, which was just like, okay, like obviously the calculus is you just grind, you know, really hard right now. And you just make sure that the company's successful and you make all these trade-offs of like, I'm not going to have a social life. I'm just going to work super hard. And then one day that becomes easier and like everything's kind of coasting and it's great. And basically my lesson of now 2 decades in is like that moment doesn't really happen. And if it does, it's like very fleeting for like 6 months. Like there's like a window where like things feel like it's all kind of all the pieces have been put in place. And then boom, something happens in the economy or the macro or geopolitically, or now obviously directly in the tech, you know, space. And like the whole chessboard just gets flipped upside down and you're just like, okay, back to like get now just like got to figure out where the pieces are and you kind of like then just go and grind again. So that's probably the main message I would tell myself. So
that's really interesting because I thought you were going to go someplace else with that. You know, inside the GeekWire team, you are one of the people whose LinkedIn posts and tweets or X posts or whatever they're called now get circulated among our team of reporters to sort of get across how people can be productive with AI, the importance of agents, how to think about things. I wondered if perhaps you might be spending more time on the mountain or in the hammock or wherever you go to relax because your agents are doing the work for you these days. Am I off base?
We have not gotten there yet. I think maybe like GPT-7, I'll feel comfortable with that lifestyle. Right now with GPT 4.1, we are more in the mode of like, how do we just make sure that we get this technology embedded into our platform as quickly as possible? And yeah, no, I mean, the fun part of it, I sort of mostly in jest, you know, kind of explain it as a stressful thing. But the fun part is Box has never felt more like a startup than it does today, other than the first, let's say, 12 months of our existence. And so we were a startup and then we kind of scaled and then we had, you know, a decade and a half of just kind of scaling. Now we're like very much a startup again. And it's, you know, pulling out every component of my startupiness to go and make sure that we're positioned for the future. And it's super fun. And we're working, our butts off, and it's 24/7 right now. And it feels very much like the early days when we were riding this kind of like cloud cycle and then mobile cycle. The AI cycle is very similar, with actually only the big difference is actually the cycle is bigger, it's faster, there's more players in it, so there's more to keep track of. And but you do have to kind of make sure your company is positioned for riding that wave as much as possible.
Well, before we get to how Box is integrating AI, I'm really curious for you day to day. You write about this a lot, but how are you using agents in your work and AI, and is it helping, or is it just causing you to sort of expand your horizons?
Yeah, there's we have a simple kind of concept, and it's sort of an emerging concept, I think, across the ecosystem. But we ask ourselves, what would it mean to be an AI first company? And the definition of that for us is, as we go and execute our work, how can AI accelerate the work that we're doing? How can we make decisions faster? How do we get better insights? How do we build better products? How do we build those products in a more efficient way? How do we better serve our customers with the right message? Everything that we're doing, we want to find a way where AI will help us accelerate that work, and ideally get out of some of the drudgery of the work that is less interesting, less strategic, less enjoyable. And so, at every kind of, juncture, the idea is, how can we use AI to accelerate that thing that we're working on? So we as a company are running in an AI first way. That means that our sales reps, when they join the company, they're asking questions of our data with AI. Obviously, that's we benefit from the fact that we're a company that has lots of data in Box, and so we use Box AI to do that. I am on any given day sending a deep research agent to go and do some market analysis for me, or using AI within our product called Box Notes to come up with some new project that I want to kind of kick off. Engineers are using AI to, write code, to improve code, to write documentation for code. So every function within the company is sort of using AI for some form of productivity. And we are going on this journey of what would it mean to run a company in an AI first way in the 21st century.
Well, you're leading with your products as well, and that's one of your announcements this week, is that you're coming out with new Box AI agent capabilities in search and research and data extraction. Can you give us a sense for the announcements that you're making this week and how they represent the way that you and the company are approaching AI right now?
Yeah. So some of the big announcements are, we've been building an AI platform that basically does all of the plumbing you would want for making your content AI ready. And so instead of having to move your content to all of these AI platforms, you can actually have the AI effectively come to you, architecturally speaking. And so, if you think about all of this unstructured data that we have, financial documents, contracts, invoices, marketing assets, research and development files, all of that data contains unbelievably important information for a company. And for the most part, you've never been able to tap into that information to make better decisions, or to get insights about the next product to build, or look across all your contracts for which customers, you can sell more products to, or they have a renewal event that you need to kind of watch out for. And so the answers are inside your data, but you've not been able to kind of tap into that. And so we built an AI platform that lets you take the breakthroughs from OpenAI or Google Gemini or Anthropic or Meta, or XAI, and bring that to your content, so you don't have to ship your data around to all these different platforms. We're taking that platform even further by building more now agentic capabilities in the platform. And so when you create an AI agent within Box, the ability to leverage more effectively agentic workflows within the Box platform as you're building those. And so there's three kind of major announcements that we'll be rolling out over the coming months. But the first is a search agent that will look across all of your data and find exactly what you're looking for. The second is a deep research agent. So you can give the agent a set of data, and it will go and kind of work through every single file and document and review it and analyze it, and use its objective that you give it to come up with some synthesized answer across your data. So you can do things like, say, I have a bunch of due diligence documents. I want you to write a due diligence report on this company I'm looking to acquire, or take a bunch of research data and say, analyze this research data and give me insights about, this medical, research that we're working on, or this product that we're working on. So this is where you don't want the AI to just come up with a very quick answer. You want it to really think for a bit. You want it to analyze the data a bit more. You want it to sort of check its work and kind of go back earlier in the process if it gets something wrong that it wants to improve. And so it might take 5 or 10 minutes to produce the answer, but the answer is usually the equivalent of a week's worth of work that you may otherwise be doing as a human. And then the final category is this ability to use AI to do data extraction from content, where you want to analyze information and extract large amounts of structured data. So I have a contract and there's 20 fields from the contract that I want to pull out. I have an invoice and I want to be able to use an AI agent to pull out the data from that invoice. So these are the 3 big announcements on the product front. And then we have a series of integration announcements, one being with Microsoft Copilot. So you can use Box AI within the Microsoft Copilot experience. And then another being support for this interoperability standard called MCP that lets AI systems talk to tools. And Box is one of those tools that it can talk to.
We'll have more on that Microsoft connection after this.
Brian Westbrook with GeekWire Studios. BECU Money Hacks with the lead financial educator, Stacey Black. Let's talk about savings. We have an episode devoted to savings, living for today and saving for tomorrow. Talk about micro savings.
So the idea of micro savings is saving small amounts that add up over time. So it's less overwhelming and it feels more doable.
Very approachable savings. And BECU has a program specifically designed to help you save.
Yeah, it's called Save Up, and lots of financial institutions offer this. So check with your financial institution. It just kind of rounds up every time you buy something and transfers to your savings.
That's great. And you don't have to think about it. It's an automated program. You've got a lot more tips in this episode of BECU Money Hacks. Stacey Black, lead financial educator. We're going to watch more at geekwire.com/BECU.
Listen to the full interview and find more episodes of Money Hacks at geekwire.com/BECU and find more information at becu.org. The Microsoft integration is really interesting, in part because it seems like you might compete with them on some fronts, but at the same time, you also have partnered with them over the years. Can you tell me more about that integration and how it reflects your broader relationship with Microsoft as a company?
Yeah, so by virtue of having software for the enterprise, every platform that is in the enterprise works with Microsoft in some capacity. We actually probably work with Microsoft more than even the average software company, because by being a company around content, we plug into things like Teams and Microsoft Office and Windows. And so we've always had a strong interoperability kind of orientation toward Microsoft, and that's increased over the past couple of years as there's more touch points to plug into their ecosystem. And so Microsoft Copilot is just one more continuation of that. So we want to be the best place for bringing AI to content, but we know that there's lots of other things that you're going to do with AI, and we want to make sure we plug into those environments as well. So you might send a query in Copilot that stitches together an answer from your calendar or Dynamics or other data, and we want Box to show up in that experience in a very natural, seamless way for the data that customers have within the Box environment. So we do compete in some areas, obviously, mostly in a very, very kind of narrow fashion on the Microsoft side, but then we partner pretty substantially across a number of kind of product categories within the Microsoft ecosystem.
The focus on agents is really interesting, in part because that is really where the industry is focused heavily this year, it seems. How much is really happening with agents? It seems like there's I can't figure out where it is on the hype cycle versus the actual reality cycle. Like, is this real? Because that is probably the biggest question I get from folks. They see the capabilities of chatbots, but they're not convinced yet on agents. What would you say?
Yeah, I think one of the tricky things is agents is, if you ask 10 people to describe AI agents, you'd probably get, 20x the amount of use cases than are probably possible today with AI. And so you almost need a kind of an AI agent like maturity curve that sort of says, okay, what can AI agents do extremely well right now versus when we talk about agents in the future, what will they be able to do later? And the risk is if you're a customer that doesn't understand the different stages of that maturity curve, and you sort of, hear this pitch from some vendor and you jump all the way to the end state of the utopian agent vision, and then you fall down somewhere because the agent, couldn't incorporate into your systems well, or it hallucinated just 1%, but it was on the wrong thing that you don't want any accuracy issues with. Then all of a sudden, right, you're not going to then have a great experience. And so we've gone after the most pragmatic parts of the agent kind of ecosystem, which is I have a document-oriented process. I want an AI agent to read a document, read many documents, extract data from that, synthesize that data, pull out information, and move it to the next step. These are kind of well within the realm of the models are getting way better at being able to do these tasks. The accuracy is going up, quite a bit when you look at things like Claude 3.7 Sonnet, or you look at O3 from OpenAI, or Gemini 2.5 or Grok 3. The models are getting better and better at these kinds of tasks. And so I would say we are on day one of agent adoption in the enterprise. We should think about 2025 for agents in the same way that we probably thought about 2023 and 2024 for just AI chatbots, which means like these are the first times that you're going to see them in the enterprise. And it's going to start with a proof of concept for a small team. And so this is, I'd say, the year of the piloting of agents, where we will still have 100 times more agents in the enterprise this year than last year. But in 5 years, it'll probably be something like 100,000 times the number of agents. And so we have to kind of put it in perspective about how early we actually are in this adoption curve. And so I'd say we're early, and it behooves companies to go after use cases where agents, can very clearly work. The accuracy is high. The use cases will prove ROI right out of the gate. That tends to be what we instruct customers to kind of think about.
After the break, we will get into some specific examples of AI agents at work. AI is moving fast. Are we keeping up? Join Seattle University's Ethics and Tech Conference on Wednesday, June 18th to explore the evolving legal and policy landscape governing AI. Register at seattleu.edu/ethics. That's Seattle University's Ethics and Tech Conference, June 18th, seattleu.edu/ethics. Is there one use case with some of these new box tools that just really lights you up?
Yeah. Well, it lights me up because there's probably two, I guess. The one because just the volume of the work is massive, and then the other because I think we'll just get some breakthrough kind of use cases from the volume of the work that's massive is we'll go to a lot of customers and we'll say, if you could understand what was in all of your data, what would you be able to now do as a result of that? And every industry or every sub-vertical, and you talk to the CIO or the CEO or some line of business, you're going to have this incredible set of answers. We'll go to a talent agency and we'll say, if you could understand everything that was inside of your contracts and your agreements with your talent, what would you do differently? And instantly they'll light up with new ideas about, well, we could generate more revenue because we know all of the licensing deals that we have and how those correlate between different talent that we work with and what we could then go and package up for an advertiser. And all of a sudden, they realize they're sitting on data that would actually make them more money if they had some way to actually have AI go look through all of that data. And you go industry by industry, real estate, legal, any kind of consulting firm, insurance, and they have ways of either streamlining operations, making more money, better serving customers, if they could afford to understand everything that was going on with their data. And so that's the thing that I think is going to be by volume the biggest area, and that's our data extraction kind of agent. So that's an agent that you deploy and you run it across all of your data, and you just say what you want it to pull out, and it pulls it out and it puts it into a database that's then queryable, and you can do analytics on it. And so it's kind of bringing the full power of, let's say, business intelligence or data lakehouses to your unstructured data, which was never really before possible. And then the second big use case is what we're going to start to see with deep research, which is I want to ask these very complex questions of my data that would take a human, hundreds of hours to go work through. And I just want to deploy agents to go and ask those questions. Here's all of my client log data. Go give me the 20 features I could build as a product that would best solve all of the customer feedback issues that they run into. So, something that a human would spend 100 hours to go do, now all of a sudden the AI agent can go do in 10 minutes. Here's the thing that we get really most excited about, though, is both of those examples. The vast majority of use cases that customers will come up with when you explain these new use cases, they are use cases that humans were not doing before. And this is the part that I think we always get wrong about AI is we look at AI and we say, well, okay, I currently spend 50 hours a week doing stuff and AI is going to take 10 of those hours. And well, what's that going to mean to jobs and the future of work and all of this? But in practice, when we actually go and show these products to customers, what they do is they find the 1,000 hours of things that no human was working on, because it was just not affordable or ROI positive to have full headcount go after those types of problems. This is the part where AI will have the greatest upside, where AI we'll look back in a couple of years and we'll see that like probably something on the order of like 90% of the work that AI is doing in a couple of years from now is work that humans never did before AI. It's just all net new work that we just never were executing on.
This is why you're still struggling to reach work-life balance.
Exactly, 100%. I'm finding just more to have the AI do, and then I end up doing more work as a result of that.
It's really interesting because this topic is very much on my mind today. We're recording this on Tuesday, and Microsoft just this morning announced a bunch of layoffs. 3 weeks ago, I was covering them and their work trend index, talking about how everybody's just going to be basically an agent boss managing fleets of agents. So it was hard not to make that connection.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're saying that the impact on jobs might not be as severe overall in the industry as people expect.
I'm betting that it's not. I'm betting more than anything on the opposite. I think AI is going to create an abundance of things for us to go do as humans that we can't even contemplate today. And I recognize I'm a microcosm of this, but we were also a microcosm of the early stages of cloud and SaaS, and a lot of our initial hypotheses ended up playing out exactly in the same way. So obviously take with a grain of salt, but we think we're kind of at the forefront of what this looks like. But I've probably caused far more work for humans as a result of AI, probably by an order of magnitude, than I've actually saved in human time because of AI. And what I mean by that is by using AI to accelerate projects or accelerate ideas, all of a sudden, we'll do things like we'll have an internal, session, and we'll be like, well, what if we did this idea? And I don't want to reveal the idea because we actually are working on something. And we say, what if we do this thing? And I'll go to AI and I'll do a draft, and it'll be like a good enough idea that we'll like, oh, we should green light that. And then all of a sudden now we have like weeks of work to go do because the AI dropped the barrier to getting started with that thing to the point where it felt achievable to go work on, that then we execute on. And but this is what's going to end up happening across the economy is AI will cause you to move faster. It will then mean that you move to the next project more quickly. It'll expose more things to go work on because you'll have the AI agent go read all your contracts and you'll be like, oh shoot, I missed this one thing. We probably need to hire a lawyer now to go work on this. You need to not be kind of myopic when you look at what work looks like and just imagine that AI is just going to sort of statically replace one part of the thing that we're doing. Everything that changes in the economy then has a corresponding other set of changes that happen as a result. So if we have AI moving our projects forward, then your company is just going to run into the things that it would have run into in any other kind of timeline, but at a faster pace, which in many cases will mean you'll need more people to respond to customers, and you'll need more people to review the customer contracts, and you'll need more people to build the features of the product that your customers are buying the more units of product for.
Last question for you. I have to ask, because this is always on my mind, where the line is for you between smart productivity and cheating. And specifically, I'm thinking of, do you use AI to write your tweets or your LinkedIn posts? Do you envision agents doing that someday?
I would say that I don't think about anything in per se as cheating. I don't use AI to write anything that is sort of a public representation of something I've said. Right now, I'm not using AI for, with one exception of like if I'm like I need a grammar, kind of like I'm like okay, I've like what's like. I think my grammar's probably off. Like because I sometimes when I type something too fast, I'll sort of screw that up. But I'll write these inordinately long emails to the company that I don't think anybody even reads them. And most of the time, people even just will send me screenshots of the AI summary of my email. But I always write those. I write my tweets. I write the LinkedIn posts because I think mostly it's at least I tell myself it's sort of a self-discipline of ensuring that I understand the topic and the subject. And so like if I actually thought that it could make me, even way faster, I probably would use AI for it. But I'm a believer that understanding things deeply means you'll use better judgment when you come across that thing in the wild. And so for this set of topics, I like to make sure I fully understand it. And I do. And so then I write everything out because that's my best way of making sure my brain still works. But it's about the only topic that I have sort of no AI usage on. And it's not, again, for any kind of moral reason other than just I think it just helps your brain still make sure it's all the wiring is still there.
That's great. Hey, Aaron, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and let's do it again before 13 years this time.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Todd.
Aaron Levie is the CEO and co-founder of Box. See the show notes for related links. Thanks for listening. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop. We'll be back next week with a new episode of the GeekWire Podcast.